Welcome to Mel's Clever Crafts. If you're a subscriber, thank you so much for subscribing. If you're new to this channel, I ask that you subscribe if you like what you see. As you can see, today we're going to be making a Juneteenth flower wreath, and that flower center is a custom-made perler bead center. So our list of supplies are going to be similar to what we always use, but instead of our regular 14-inch frame or 18-inch frame, we're going to be using an 8-inch wreath frame today, and this was purchased from the Dollar Tree. So just a little bit about the Juneteenth flag. It has many symbolisms in it. One, you'll see a bursting outline, the star, the arc, the colors, the date. You can get more information on those by reading the description. It just has a lot of rich history that went into creating this flag. So, to start off, we're going to be using the 8-inch frame. So I already attached the plastic canvas mesh to that, and I already cut out the piece of felt backing that I'll be putting on there when I finish the wreath. So what I'm doing is pretty much using the felt backing to make a drawing on the canvas mesh so I can get that arc when I'm placing the petals on there. So I'm just going to be tracing that out, and this is going to give me a guideline of how to place the petals to kind of get that curve when I place the petals onto the frame. Right? Right, so now we're going to be making the petals. I'm going to be using the Dean Michael Daisy petal technique, and what that pretty much is you're going to be putting the finished edge at the top, finished edge at the bottom, and then you're going to put bottom right over top left, and then you scrunch the bottom of it just like I'm doing right there. So you just fold it in multiple parts, and I use a rubber band. I buy this jar of rubber band similar to what you use in here, and I use that to secure them. So I pre-make these flower petals ahead of time, and I think it's faster rather than making them one by one and then attaching them one by one. And then pretty much what I'm doing here is straightening out the petal. So I hold the tips of the petals together, and then I just try to straighten it out, and you'll see some fraying that's going on the edge, and that's okay. You'll just leave it, don't touch it too much, and you'll have less fraying. This is poly burlap, it's going to fray. I did cut it with a wire, not wire, but I did cut it with a wood burner, sorry, but it still frays. But the less you maneuver it, the less it will fray. So if you see any fraying on it, you can cut those off, but again, the less you touch, the less it frays. So here again, I'm making another petal, and I'm just gonna be doing that a few times to show you, and then you will be able to make your own petals. So again, I make these ahead of time, and I try to tuck the unfinished edge under. So I have a finished edge on one side and then an unfinished on the other side, and when there's the unfinished underneath, I try to tuck that in and straighten this out so you have nice uniform petals when you're putting them on this wreath frame. The good thing about the 8-inch wreath frame is that it takes, of course, it's smaller, so it's going to take way less petals. So it took about 21 or 22 petals in total for this. So right now I'm just going to start attaching the petals to the frame, and I'm going to be using the second bar. So this frame has 3 rings on there. I'm going to be using the second ring to attach the petals on there, and then I'll go and attach more onto the plastic canvas mesh. So I'm using 8-inch zip ties to do this. If you want, you could possibly use a 6-inch zip ties, 5-inch, or even maybe a 4-inch, but I have the 8-inch. And I'll use these on the outer part of the frame, but when I get to the canvas mesh, I'll use the smaller zip ties, because this canvas mesh is the 5 count, and the holes are smaller than a 7 count mesh, so the 8-inch zip ties would not work for this. So again, I'll attach the petals, and when I attach these petals, I try to put the finished side of the petal over the unfinished side. So all of my unfinished side of my petals, they're on the right hand side. So I put those to cover over on the right hand side of the petal, so you don't have to see too much of the rough edges and too much fraying. So right now I'm just adding the zip ties, pre-adding the zip ties to the canvas mesh. And for these, I pretty much added it maybe about 1.5 inches below where I added the first set, and that's pretty much the top of the petals. So for the blue, I added about 11 petals, and then for the red, it's going to be about 10 or 11 petals. So I'm starting here again. When I'm adding the petals, I try to put a finished edge over an unfinished edge to make it look much neater, and that's why you see me bending up that top petal to get that red one underneath, right? And I did the blue first so I can get it in a little curve shape before I did the red, because this flag is very specific. It's very cool when you read the history about it, and that the curve is not there by accident, so you want to capture it as best as you can. It's not a straight line, it's an arc. Or right, so adding the red one, using the finished edge of the petal to cover the unfinished edge that's on the right side, and I'm using the 8-inch zip ties for the outer petals, and then when I get to the canvas mesh, I use the 4-inch zip ties. All right, so now I'm adding another one, and then this one is a task again, because I have to add it underneath what I've already done and try to minimize the fraying as well. But again, after you complete your wreath, if you do see any kind of fraying that's going on, it shouldn't be too bad. You can just snip it off. You don't want to cut too much. You can just snip it off. But I would suggest you just wait until you get to the end, and then you can do that. All right, and then I added my extra petals on the inside. So this center, it's actually a custom-made center that I made from perler beads. I couldn't find any that was for sale, so I just did a center using the perler beads. So right now, I'm just putting the chenille stems into it, and that's what I'm going to be using to attach the center to the wreath. Okay, so I use 2, and whenever I'm using the chenille stems, I try to color coordinate the chenille stem with the color perler bead that I'm using. So I put the red on the red. I wouldn't put it on the blue because you don't really want it to show like boldly when you finish putting your wreath together, right? So I fed that through and tried to make the ends even, and then I'm gonna line it up so that when I put it on the wreath, it will actually give me that arc or that curve looking similar to the flag. So the burst and the star, they're not perfect because this is a perler bead center, again custom made, that I made, and the pegs on the pegboard, they don't line up perfectly to give you a perfect star or a perfect burst. but I think it came out really well. But it would be cooler if I could find like maybe some metal centers to buy. But I really take pride in customizing my centers, making them from scratch. I really like it. I really enjoy it. Give me a little bit of a challenge. But yeah, so now I'm just feeding that through. And if you're looking at it, you can kind of see the curve. So the red and the blue, they're curving and lining up nicely. Well, it shifted, but I'll fix it. I'll fix it as I go along. So I'm just trying to feed the chenille stems through that plastic canvas mesh. And then while I'm doing that, I'll just adjust it, because once you tighten it, it doesn't really move very well, and you'll have to untighten it after in order to adjust it. So now I got it how I want it. Just twisting the chenille stems a few times. I don't have a certain amount of times I twist it. I just keep twisting until I feel like stopping. And then you can tuck the chenille stems a little bit back into the canvas mesh, so that you can have some room when you're going to attach the backing onto it. So tuck those in, and that's how you attach the center to your wreath. Right. So now I think that looks good. So now I'm going to add the date to make it look as close as possible to what the flag actually depicts. So these are some foam letters that I purchased from Amazon, but you can get them from your local craft store as well. But I shop online a lot, so I shopped on Amazon and bought these. So I'm gonna use a little bit of glue, hot glue, to reinforce these. They do have their own glue on the back, but I just wanted to use a little glue, hot glue, to reinforce it as well, and let them stick a little bit better and stay more onto the wreath. But here I go. I'm playing with this letter for too long. So by the time I'm ready to attach it to the wreath, the glue has already dried. So here I go. And it's not sticking. It's not sticking. Yep. So I'll just get a different letter and attach them. So I'm going to be putting June 19th, 1865 on here, as you see in the picture. So a little bit of hot glue, and I tried to put a little dab of hot glue on each letter, each number, and each symbol. Again, just to reinforce it and let them stay in place. So if you want to put this outside, this should stand up better than if you were just using the letters with the glue that they came with. So I was trying to mimic this as close as possible, only to realize that I only had all uppercase letters. Didn't have any lowercase letters like what the flag depicts, but I think it still turned out very well, right? So adding the date on there. And then now I'm going to be adding the backing, which is the piece of felt that I already cut out. I know the blue doesn't really match the navy blue, but that's okay because it will be on the back. And you primarily use this to make the back of your wreaths look a bit neater, as well as to help prevent the metal wreath frame from possibly scratching up the door when you hang it hang the wreath onto a door. So I'm utilizing what I have, which is a paper clip, to push holes through this piece of felt. And then these are 4-inch zip ties. These ones are from the Dollar Tree. that I'm using to attach the felt onto the back of this wreath. So I think I use maybe about 6 of these. So when I start off, I try to put 2 zip ties on opposite ends, and then I just work my way around. So I'm going to be putting the next zip tie opposite from the one that I put in first, and I'm just adjusting so that I can get as much coverage of the back of that wreath as possible. So pushing that hole through and using my zip tie to attach that onto the wreath frame. Right, so that's it. That's my finished product. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you like our Juneteenth wreath that we make. I know my son loved it. If you have not yet subscribed to the channel, again, I ask that you subscribe, and thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for our next video, and also check out my other videos. Thank you.